And how old was he when he became a king? Bian, I have some questions for you.
Is it
We're
a quiz
talking,
question?
I wouldn't say it's a quiz questions. We already know you know your Bible. That would be too easy. So I don't have any siblings, but the question was about brothers.
Hmm.
So you have a brother?
I have brothers.
You have brothers,
Yes.
and this has been a lot of fun having brothers.
It has been fine.
It has been fine. Well, this afternoon, I would like us,
Hmm.
both single children, and
Mm.
we have a question on Facebook. Oh, we are live on Facebook.
Yes.
Good afternoon to our friends and family on Facebook. Pleasant good afternoon. So, Bian, I'm excited about the topic this afternoon, childhood trauma.
Right.
When you hear that topic, what comes to mind?
The thing, because when you hear trauma, you automatically think something disastrous.
Right?
I don't know for those who watch medical shows on TV, but when you think about the trauma center and the trauma division, it's always more serious accidents, life-threatening incidents, and so on. So if it's childhood trauma, there are issues that happens in a family.
In a family.
It might happen between parents. It might even happen between aunts, uncles, and so on. These affect the child. The child sits back, and often we neglect the child. We don't figure that the child is looking, but the child notices that there are these sort of changes, and there are repercussions within the brain, within the psyche of the child, that somebody would have to speak to, or the child would have to speak to someone about.
What they're facing.
Yes.
And I find sometimes in our society, when it comes to feelings, we don't talk about feelings. Sometimes for our male children, we tell them to be quiet. We
Be a
don't
man.
to be a man about it while you're crying.
Correct.
Or for the girls, you cry too much. It's too much. You're doing too much. And sometimes it's a cry for help.
Correct.
So I think it's such an important conversation to have and to get this information from Miss Walters, who I'm very sure is prepped and ready to talk about what we as the adults should be looking for. And even the younger children, the young people, you can look at your classmates and you may be able to see certain things, and you could encourage your peers to get the support and the help that they need.
Yes.
So we're going to turn over to Miss Walters. Miss Walters, are you ready for us?
Certainly.
All right, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Carrie. All right, so for our objective for today, we are going to delve into sensitization, because we know childhood trauma is such a ticklish topic.
It is.
That needs to be uncovered, and so we can only do that by addressing the parents. So this afternoon we're focusing on fostering trauma-informed parents. Now, we all want children we care about to live happy and carefree and bubbly and what's not. Unfortunately, like adults, children encounter distressing situations that are burdensome, situations that traumatizes them. So as a parent, you may be wondering, all right, what is trauma? And both of you did give a synopsis of it. I will give you the psychological definition of it, right? So trauma is the exposure to an incident or a series of events that are emotionally disturbing or life-threatening with lasting adverse effects on the individual's functioning, their mental, their physical, social, emotional, and it also affects their spiritual well-being. Now, there are different types of trauma. The most common one that we are exposed to is a complex trauma. That is what it's called. And what exactly is this? It is the continuous or the simultaneous exposure of child maltreatment.
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 Okay.
And we have a specific name for that. It's called the ACEs.
Okay.
Okay? Adverse childhood experiences.
Adverse childhood experiences. Okay. You're
Yes.
following.
Yes. And these maltreatments, they transpire specifically within the primary caregiving unit, and that's the home. Right. So, what are some of the adverse childhood experiences that these children encounter? You have family violence. You know, mommy and daddy often getting altercation, brother and sister fighting. It gets intense. You have abandonment, neglect, physical and sexual abuse. So, those are the core complex trauma. We also have medical trauma. You have intense medical treatment. Some children come down with chronic diseases, and just being there trying to get well, it causes a breakdown in their psyche. And that is why it's crucially important that we have the psychologists and the counselors visiting the
Available.
patients.
Right.
Right, right. And also, children that suffer with asthma attacks. That is traumatic.
I'm an asthmatic, and
Uh-huh.
I can relate. I can relate to your first experience in the hospital. You can't breathe. The nurses, your parents. You can see the panic on the faces of your parents. You can't necessarily explain what is happening, and that helpless feeling that you have because you do want to help your parents too. So I can relate. I can relate, and I
Yes.
know a few asthmatics who they too can tell you illness on a whole, dealing with illness as a child is traumatic.
Yes, it is. It is. Also, we have natural disasters. Now, I know we live in the tropics and we have the hurricane season, and so we begin to send out all the alerts. And while all that is good, they too affect the family and they affect the children because now they go into that fight or flight mode.
Can you go a little bit more in depth? When you speak about fight or flight, is that similar to being in a survival mode? Is
Yes,
it
in
has
this.
something to do with you either run or you freeze?
It's more mental. It can be physical as well, but in a sense, yeah, it's mental. You're at a pause. Your thoughts are not flowing. You're trapped in your emotional aspect of the brain. So yeah,
It's hard for you to function in terms of your thinking, your
yeah,
strategies.
your frontal lobe is closed down. Your decision making is not wise. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Obian has a question.
The impact of ACEs, is there a specific age group that it's more felt, it's more, well, I don't
They're
want to
more
say more
sensitive.
experienced, but are they more, depending on the age group, are they more susceptible to the lingering effects? Not just are they more susceptible, but can you tell us, are there compound issues as well in terms of more than one ACE affecting a child, etc.?
That's a very good question. So, regarding the age range, studies show that children between 0 and 18 are affected by the ACEs. And you know, just 0, you mean that they are predisposed during pregnancy, right? That happens. That happens. What are the side effects of that? What are the detriments of it? You have long term depression. You have anxiety, you have guilt, you have low self esteem, you have lack of interest in social interactions. All of those come together and they cause the children to have a breakdown and to disconnect from their society.
Do they have learning disabilities? Is that a side?
Yes, yes, it also affects their brain. They do get learning disabilities.
So the if it
Okay.
if it affects the prefrontal cortex, I think the prefrontal is where you make decisions. So it leads to a sort of lifelong. I don't want. Well, maybe we should just say it. You make bad decisions for the rest of your life, and it can result in early death because you made the wrong decision. So this is this is more than I don't know. There has to be a more important word than important. Yeah.
Yes,
Crucial.
it's deep. It's really deep. And you also asked if children can experience more than one ACE. Yes, they can.
And so it ends up being what we call baggage then. And if you don't resolve it in your childhood, you carry it into your adulthood and
Yep.
you are not able to function as highly as you could. So you're full of this potential, but you're limited by the unresolved childhood trauma, these adverse childhood
Experiences,
experiences.
yes, yes. That is so true. On the ball.
Could you go a little bit more in depth? You mentioned a few. You mentioned neglect. Sometimes we're very busy. When you mention neglect, I'm sure did you mean more than just physical neglect? Like maybe giving my child, I'm not giving them the 3 square meals, balanced meals. Maybe I give them a little extra candy, or maybe it's more in depth. Does neglect carry into emotions?
Yes, it's not only physical, it's emotional. You're not meeting the child where they are, you're not having that interaction with them. When they come home from school, do you spend the time to ask them, how was school? What was more impacting for you today? How are you? How are you feeling? Do you feel safe at school? Are you making friends? We're not tapping into that emotional, that social emotional aspect of the child. And that is neglect.
And that's a very thin line to walk on, because yes, you want to validate their feelings, but you don't want to overindulge them. You want them to learn to regulate their emotions and not become too dependent on you, but neither do you want them to drown in their emotions. But how do we as adults, some of us didn't experience that. So how do we be that? How do we become that safe space for our children? What can we do as the parent? Have you mentioned a few cues, certain things we can see in the children that would let us know that they've been tried. It doesn't have to be in our home, you know.
It's true.
Before we go to solutions, so you spoke about emotional neglect. Um, sometimes when a baby is born, you let the baby cry instead of picking them up. Does that count as emotional neglect?
It is. When children are born, they develop an attachment for their caregiver, their mother, or whoever is in their primary care. And when you allow that child to cry extensively,
Extensively being the key word.
you're ignoring that child loses its attachment. It no longer feels secure. And that transfers into adulthood, into their relationships. They can't have stable relationships.
I read it causes lack of empathy.
It does.
It's a full circle. You no longer, because you don't have the ability to attach, you also lose the ability to feel, for lack of a better word, feel what other people are feeling, because you want help. And we make jokes about these things, you know. We make jokes about these things. This child wasn't held enough. And sometimes you see the child being extra strong, extra protected. And it's because they have never felt safe enough to just allow themselves to bond.
Right.
And that was so deep.
Yeah. Parenting is a task.
What else can we look for in our children to know that they may have experienced? What situations should we be aware of that cause trauma?
Okay, all right. So as I think it was beyond that mentioned that childhood trauma affects the brain, right? And research have shown that neuroscience research have shown that the size of the brain of a child who encounters trauma frequently is smaller than the normal functioning child.
And that's overall.
That's overall. When you look at the scan, that's overall. So how does these ACs affect brain development, right? I can go deep into it, but I like to do pictorial demonstration. But trauma, it impacts the child's ability to pay attention.
Okay.
So in school, teacher carries, you might see the child being disruptive, talking a lot, and what's not. And you're like, for what, you can't just behave? Yeah, but it's deeper than you think.
What is scary about it is that you mentioned it starts from an early age. The trauma could have happened when they were 4, 5, 6, and here they are now getting ready to go to high school, and I'm trying to mold them, get them ready for high school, and I'm not getting that sense of maturity. So these ACEs that you mentioned, adverse childhood
Experiences.
experiences, that slows down their psychological growth
Development, yes, it
across the
does.
board.
Across the board. So you often find them to be what we socially call them remedial.
Or they lack social skills, they don't have the critical thinking skills necessary, or they're hyperactive.
Yeah,
Is
that happens too. Very irritable. Yeah.
So what are certain trauma based experiences that, because my home could be a safe place, but maybe my sister, I don't, if I had
Yes.
I send my child to babysitter Laura, and my child can experience something there that causes trauma. What kind of experience outside of my home could my child, that I don't have yet, but when I get one, should I be aware of that my child could experience
Okay.
that could lead to trauma?
Yes, especially in the daycare system. Unfortunately, you have a lot of aggressive individuals. And so your child witnesses a child being ill-treated. Maybe they peed in the bed and they get beaten by their teacher. That is traumatic. And that is why the Ministry of Education is now enforcing the child-friendly zones, stepping away from punishment and moving towards positive reinforcement. I see your face, Lilo.
But I grew up in a balanced environment where there was a time and place, there was a balanced approach to discipline. So it wasn't a matter that I was just beaten. There was a conversation first,
Yes.
and there was an expectation. I knew what the expectation was, and I knew if I didn't meet it, this would be the consequence. So I had the ability to choose for myself. If But I think we don't want to come off course. But this is a topic for another time.
Yes. But the thing is, there's a lot of persons who are traumatized walking around. And traumatized people are getting children. They have not dealt with their trauma.
Oh.
They have not dealt with their trauma. And so they only know how to deal with their children based on how they are coping with their trauma or how they see their parents interacted with them. And so it's like a cycle. It just keep going on and on and on.
I remember telling somebody that a parent can only love you the way, well, not can, but most parents love you the way that they were loved. So if they were neglected by the time they were 14, 15, the same thing's going to happen to the child unless it's dealt with, they change course,
The
right?
pivot.
Sometimes you see, and that's why parents need to communicate with children, tell them about what happened to them. Have discussions early in life, not about the heavy stuff, but have discussions with them. Let them know this is what happened to me, and I don't want it to happen to you. That kind of thing. Children, because you look at on the outside, you look at families, and you say, the same thing happened to the mother, and that's what she's doing to the child. So not dealing with it, but some people don't know how to deal with it. So I guess that's where we're going with the conversation. Okay.
Yes,
Definitely.
yes. But before we get there, there's another common issue that causes trauma, and it is residential relocation.
Residential relocation.
Moving, hopping from one home to the next. Yes, we know we live in a society where not everyone is going to be homeowners. That's understandable. Those who rent, they move because different demographic reasons and financial reasons. But also, what I really want to touch on is the common law relationships. I'm friendly with Tom today. I live with Tom. Tom and I break up in 6 months. we move out from Tom house, and then I get in with Jack, and then I move in with Jack with my child. And so every time I get a romantic relationship, I am living with that partner. But it's not just me living, the child is living there too. And this constant moving up and down, not having that stable home, it traumatizes the child as well.
And even just when you're talking about a shift in family dynamic, you're looking at even if you don't move, if you have an uncle who is incarcerated, a family member, the father, the mother incarcerated, that impacts the child. Dramatic shifts in family dynamic would lead, especially as Beyonce said, if you don't communicate with the child. Are you talking the
Vulnerable.
child through the change, or is it in the middle of the night and you have no choice but to pack up everything and leave? And this is not just a one-time occurrence, it happens every year. That kind of instability would affect the progress, the emotional growth of that child. That is something to and I love the fact that Beyonce said these children observe everything. Sometimes we don't validate the fact that they are intelligent. When was the last time you saw a child pick up a phone and they can't read, but they know to
True.
go to YouTube, they know to go to Cocomelon? How you know it?
It's true.
How did you search for Cocomelon and you can't read? These children are very intelligent, and we need to give them credit for that intelligence. Speak to them, so even though the change would affect them, it doesn't have to become an adverse childhood experience.
Right. I remember you were talking about the survival mode that children goes into. You want to be able to identify when your child is in that survival mode. Right.
That's essential.
So what are some classical symptoms, some signs that you can observe in your child? Isolation. They no longer want to mingle with the members in the home. They no longer want to go outside and go on a bike with their friends. Or maybe in school, they're boxing, they're not going out for break, they're not socializing on a whole. They have difficulty trusting people. So they're no longer having that open conversation with their parents or maybe that close friend. They're also hypersensitive to physical contact, especially children who encounter physical abuse and sexual abuse. So you're reaching out to the child and the child is running away from you.
So maybe they weren't like that before, but suddenly you're observing
Right,
these changes.
right. So
Okay.
that's something to look into. And then another thing that we might not find it clear is that they have an increase in illnesses.
Really?
Child gets sick. Remember,
All
when
the
your brain lacks the development that it ought to be at your present age, it messes with your whole functioning of your body, your central nervous system. Your brain is not functioning, shutting off, it's not telling your hand when to move, not telling your antigens how to fight off an illness. The child becomes sick. And you're like, why do I have to keep going doctor all the time with this child?
And we do believe in
And
holistic
stress, traumatic experiences.
And we believe in a holistic approach to health. That is something as Adventists we strongly believe in. We believe in a balanced and holistic approach to everything, but specifically health. That if you are not strong in your mind, you're going to struggle in other areas, and it would not be surprising to see that negative impact physically. Your inability to fight off a simple cold. Why is my child always sick? You're giving them the gummies. You're giving them the gummies. It's not working.
Nothing's working. System is failing. And another one is that their coordination.
Coordination.
Yeah, they become awkward.
Well, I think children.
No. So this is a change that you notice in the child. The child was always there. So the child used to play football,
Coordinated.
hand-eye coordination,
On
they're
point.
scoring goals and so on.
Right.
But now you can't even kick the ball. I see. Okay.
I was listening for on your list. I was listening out for the outburst. You know that
It's there.
anger.
Yes,
That's
yes, that I'm coming to that. The mood.
good. The mood
The mood.
swings.
Intense emotions. And you talk about the child always crying, talking about screaming. You're just
Anger.
telling them, no, you can't have this. You ever see that in supermarket?
A full blown. For me, it's seeing that uncharacteristic anger, and it's not just the it's not just them being angry and crying. You see them lash out at the parent. This is not the child that you know. They lash out at the parent, they lash out at strangers, they break things, they shout. Sometimes they use vocab that you don't use, and you're surprised, you are stunned. Where is my child? It's very possible that your child has experienced trauma and now they are in need of professional help. And I think that I know we are getting there, but I'm excited to talk about this element. So I'll pull the brakes and let you continue.
Yes. Yeah, so because they have all these behavioral issues, they now encounter what we call social thinning. And what is that? People not being willing to interact and associate with them. Yeah, I know sometimes we say, oh, I don't like rude children and this and that. But separating from them,
Makes it worse.
it makes it worse. It makes it worse. And then they have trouble sleeping. They develop eating disorders. Maybe they're not eating or they're eating more frequently. So you have to keep going to the grocery store and buying food. I know. That's a financial burden.
Pocket.
And they have substance use. So all these are signs. But a key thing for us to remember is that children, they are not innately resilient. They do not know how to overcome their challenges. And that is why they need that support system.
They need the guidance.
They need that guidance to model how they can become overachievers. And that is why we have to stimulate them as adults.
I saw one. I happened to peep on your screen, and I realized there was one that said obsession with death. Obsession with that is something you would realize a child would be very sensitive, very caring, very loving, and suddenly they have this very dark humor. They start to do very risky things, stepping out into traffic, or you see them playing with a knife, or unexplained cuts. These are little things that sometimes they get swept under the mat, and then you talk to your child in their 30s and they're telling you, yes, I used to cut myself. And it's not that you didn't see it, but you didn't realize what it represented, that it was a cry for help. Or maybe because you weren't equipped, you probably bashed the child, you shout at the child, and 9 times out of 10, as a wise lady told me, you get more flies with honey than vinegar. You need to sit down with these children and talk to them. And when you realize it is out of your depth, what then?
Yep.
That's where we're heading.
Yes, we're heading there. We're heading there. So that is why it's important for us to build relationships with our children. You can't just go in and say, oh, I'm to you.
Correct.
The tone. And maybe that relationship is not at the point where the child will be willing to be open towards the parent. So our approach mechanism has to be different. And we also have to know when to approach a child. If a child is in that emotional tantrum, that's not the right moment for them to have that discussion. Wait. Let them calm down. And just don't approach it just like that, because maybe you don't even have that relationship with the child. So then you do things to get to that point. So maybe you take them for ice cream often, or you just lay down in the bedroom and you watch Netflix with them, binge watch a show with them. You know, build that social unit first, and then you can delve into why they are behaving the way that they do.
And even the physical touch, you know, once you realize the child may not be too uncomfortable being touched, sometimes a hug goes a long way. There are little things as families, the family culture of reinforcing that bond, that hugging, that kissing, words of affirmation. You look so good today. You're so smart. You're brilliant. You are loved. You are enough. You are safe. Speaking over your children is important.
Yep.
And eventually, sometimes they don't see it. Like you said, they're not innately resilient. And sometimes we have to speak them through some of the emotions, some of the problems they are
Yep.
experiencing.
Yep.
A
Yep.
hug, sometimes they're not ready to talk to you, but they would accept a hug. They would accept a hug. So you hug them. Hug your children. Kiss your children. Kiss them. There's so many young children. As a teacher, I know what it's like to have the roughest of the rough. You see them just melt before you just because you took that time just to maybe rest your hand on their shoulder, rub their head, tell them, you didn't call me here today. You didn't come here today. You're too handsome to not
It's
come here.
true.
And it melts that exterior that need to be, you know. Continue.
Well, you're going so good.
Girl, this is so juicy. It's so juicy. It's juicy this afternoon.
Yes. And as a parent, you want to get to the point where you truly understand what trauma is, because you can't help the child if you don't understand externally what they are going through. And so you have to sit down with them and talk to them. If you have to do your research, do your research. If you have to call external help, call external help.
It's worth it.
But you have to be careful with the external help. Yes, you have to engage your family members and persons who are in close proximity, daily interaction with the child to forewarn them about some of the signs that the child might portray, and maybe this is why XYZ, XYZ. But you don't want to overshare to make the child feel uncomfortable.
Yes,
So you need to have that tact.
that tact. Because you want to create that safe space for the child. Sometimes, if you're not comfortable talking to me, you can talk to Auntie so and so, especially if you realize that that
Right.
person has the same value base, they have the same beliefs and values that you hold. It would be good for, even if you can't talk to mommy, talk to Auntie. Create that space. That's a brilliant point.
Outside of family, outside of, you know, the proverbial auntie, because it might not be a biological auntie. The professional help that you need to seek. We don't really have a culture of speaking to therapists, and it's well known. We have to, when our friends come to us with problems, we need to tell them, see a professional. A lot of times they say, oh, I have this good friend who I can speak to. No, go and see a professional. I am not trained in this.
And it's not that you're being dismissive. You're not being dismissive. A lot of times people need that professional help that would give them not only the coping mechanisms, you can identify what the core problem is. You can work on the problem. There's a system in place. We need that and it's so unfortunate that we run from getting the help we need. And as human beings, we are multifaceted, we are multi-dimensional beings. We are not just physical, we are spiritual, we are emotional. Going to that counselor could make a big difference. And maybe if our children saw us making the time to work on our mental health, they would be more comfortable receiving professional help.
Yep. Y'all hit the nail on the hammer, huh?
The nail on
The
the
nail on
head.
the hammer.
Oh
boy.
The nail on the head. It's juicy.
Another point too. Remember going back to what I was saying, that you want to help your child, and so you don't know when to do it, and so you just go all in while the child is having that tantrum. And because you do not truly understand how to deal with these children who are going through adverse childhood experiences, there is a power struggle. Because the child is throwing a tantrum and you're coming frustrated. Yes,
Very
and
correct.
so the child is up there
And you're joining
and you're
them
going above.
because I
And
am
so
the parent.
right, nothing is reaching, and so you have to self-regulate. You have to calm down. Show the child exactly model how they are to process what they are going through in the moment. And that helps. That truly helps.
Be the adult in the situation.
Of
Sometimes you don't do it.
course.
And she made me do it. No, a child cannot make you do something.
Yes, the
That is
blaming.
the blaming. You as the adult, you have to self-regulate. You have to regulate your emotions, calm down, and then talk them down. Wow.
Right. And try to stay away from disciplining them,
When you're
when you're
angry,
right, and also shaming them, making them feel less of themselves because
Them-
they overly cry, or maybe
they made a mistake.
or maybe they fidget when they're getting anxious or what's not. And finally, a key point for the parents: do not take your behavior personally.
Don't. So if my child is on the floor rolling in the supermarket, I
You-
shouldn't
You're not
personalize
the
that. But that
problem.
makes me like a bad mother.
Yes, I
It makes me look
understand,
like a
but
bad mother.
I know. But that is where good parenting comes in.
I see what you mean.
So I think we should open the lines for a few minutes. Maybe three callers. We can speak about adverse childhood experiences. Even if you want to give your own experience,
We would love to hear it.
we would love to hear it and how you overcame.
Yes.
Not just what happened to you, but how you overcame. You can call the number 465 6474 465 0546 662 1065. That's 1065. Call in if you want to. Just give a comment. You can ask a question. Parenting is difficult, and it's even more difficult in 2023.
Mercy.
So, give us a call. Give us your experience. Ask the question. Miss Walters is able. But while we give them time to call in, I think I read one time that the the scientists or the social scientists said that if you get to 4 or 5 aces, then you're in deep trouble. So it can be, and this could happen within the space of a few years, because someone can die, someone can get seriously ill, someone can go to prison, someone else can go on drugs, and
Violence. Yeah.
we see it as normal. Well, not normal.
We normalize it.
We see it and we say, these things happen. But to a child, you lose that person, you lose another person, you lose another person. And this person who is abusing drugs,
You're losing them.
yeah, because they're not themselves. So, how, I mean, other than the professional help, as people who see what the family goes through, what can we do? Or maybe I should say, as a church, maybe, what can we do?
What can we do?
How to reach out?
Well, that is why we have to build a relationship with our community, not just the external community, but the church community. We have to fellowship. We have to understand who our members are, get to know who our members are, and try to associate ourselves with at least one individual, to not just meet them on a spiritual level, but on a social and a personal level, because we're all going through things. And then maybe we can bring in the experts to have that conversation, not just to target the individuals who are going through these experiences, but to also sensitize their family members and the church members on how to be that support for the individuals. What do you think?
Well, this morning we had a picnic. We had a picnic, a little church get together, and to see some of the families together in that social setting. There was support for the women. It wasn't spoken of, but it was felt. And the men were being men, and the everybody was looking out for the whatever child, the children that were present. And it's when we realize it takes a village to raise a child, we've moved very far from that concept now. You can't tell my child anything. But when you expand your support system, then when your family experiences that type of dysfunction, there's assistance, there is help, there is someone to step in and fill in the gap. So I do agree that going to church, building connections in a church community would definitely help you deal with the traumas that you're going through, the loss of and sometimes we do depend on other people to do things for us, but what are we doing for others? Are we being overcome by our own traumas? Are we sitting in our traumas and not allowing God to use us in a way to assist other people? Are we allowing our traumas to be stumbling blocks instead of allowing them to build other people? I went through it. I'm not invalidating your experience or your feelings, but I'm letting you know that there's hope, there is help. God is still on the throne. You're not alone. There is something empowering about sitting in circles like that, that even though your children may not be behaving the way you want them to, and you feel very helpless, God is with you as the parent. God is with you as the family, as a household. I'm really looking forward to hearing from our listening audience. If you're on Facebook, I'm looking forward to read your comments. If you want to share an experience, if you want to ask a question, you can call 465-6474, 465-6474, or 465-0546. Yes, Miss Walters, as you were saying.
Yeah, so while we wait on our callers, I want to speak now to the individuals who are traumatized.
Okay.
The children, the adults. When you're overcoming your trauma, you can't do it alone by yourself. You have to build interpersonal relationships. And this is one activity I do with my groups all the time. It's called a relationship circle. So you just draw some rings, right? And in those rings, you're going to write down the individuals who are close to you, the ones who check in with you quite often, maybe the ones who you talk to daily on WhatsApp, or your members in your household. But remember, we want to create a positive interpersonal relationship. So what can I do? What can I do? Well, on your list, you can identify someone who loves you unconditionally. That person is a tick, a plus. And you can identify a close friend as well. Also, on that list, you might have probably a church member or a neighbor who reaches out to you quite often, who you can count on for advice. So then you pick up the phone and you call that individual. Say, hey, I have something burning, and I need to talk about something. So that's something you can do.
I'm looking at the Facebook feed. I'm seeing Mr. Osborne Hewitt. Good afternoon. He's saying this is very important in a child's life. Children are now throwing temper tantrums, and it is true, but adults also throw tantrums. When was the last time you stood in a bank line and or you went to the supermarket and you cut in front of me and they literally have a meltdown, and we wonder why our children are unable to regulate their emotions when we do not lead by experience. So what are we doing? We have Bill. Good afternoon, Bill. He's saying this is important information for parents and future parents, and even those, by extension, the godparents, the aunts, the uncles. And then we have Miss Veronica Roberts. She's saying children need attention from everyone close to them.
Right.
Positive attention. It's very easy to see a child misbehaving and you're quick to jump onto the bad behavior. But when was the last time you reinforced and affirmed the positive behavior? I read a study somewhere that said that for every one bad statement or critique that someone gives you, you need 3 or 4 positive
To override
comments to balance, not to override it, to balance it. Are we practicing the sandwich approach, which is I'm going to tell you something kind, I'm going to get to the meat of the matter, and I'm going to end what I'm saying with something in love? What are we doing? What are we doing? We have to set the pace for our children.
That is so true. Something? Right. So also as a trauma victim, you can tap into your creativity. What is it that I like to do? What is it I'm good at? Am I good at cooking? Can I learn a new cuisine?
Can I talk?
Or I like art. Can I
Paint,
doodle
yes,
it?
yes.
Right.
Music, you can write songs. We have so many new artists
Right.
coming out. It's an opportunity for you to get to the core of your pain. Someone can relate to it, and having someone relate to your pain is a powerful experience.
Yes, and
very
it's going
powerful.
to sell. It's going to sell. And you can also engage in social activities, community activities. So if you're in church, you know, you have the ACS, they go out, and in my church we have the cooking.
Community
soup.
service,
Yes.
cup soup.
So you go out and you beat
And the
that.
praise team. And if you can't sing, you can always join your church choir and lip sing. That is also a possibility. It's about having community, being a part of. You do not have to be on tune all the time. And did you know that Miss Walters is an amazing singer? But that is for another time. I'm waiting to see if anyone is going to call in. It is 6:23 and we're getting ready to wrap up. Beyond, do you have something to add?
I had a question about the art. This is, when you said you express yourself through art, this is where teachers come in, especially if you give a child an assignment and they paint or they draw something that is particularly
Dark.
a little, you know, it's send off a few red flags. This is a way for the teacher to maybe speak to the parents and bring it to the parents' attention, because some parents are so busy.
They are.
You wouldn't believe. I deal with some children, right? In addition to afternoon classes, they have sports stuff, so they play football.
Afternoon classes.
Yeah, so they have afternoon classes. They still play football. They do music. All these things. When do you get time to
When
speak
it's
to your
family
children?
Yeah, when it's family time and they're tired, you're tired, they're tired. That is why that is the beauty of being an Adventist. I don't want to just say it like that, but it's very easy when the house is already clean on Friday evening. So we are going to sit together. The food is already cooked. So mommy is relaxed with her foot up. So now I can talk to her.
Right.
We can talk about our week. Maybe we missed each other all week. Friday evening we are together at rest. I'm not arguing about the dishes. It's the house is clean and we can cuddle together. We can read together. We can sing together. We can go out in nature and take a nature walk. It's a beautiful experience, and I think it's something that we all should make a priority in our lifestyle.
Yeah, because schedules are too busy. You need rest.
We are always busy. And the bills will always be there to be paid, but family, you never know when something will happen to somebody that you love. So you maximize each moment with the people we care about. You pray with them, you pray for them, you speak life into them. Especially our children, they need it. They need it. So I'm going to ask Miss Walters to give her closing remarks.
Right, good. So throughout our discussion, we realized that yes, childhood trauma does have adverse effects on the children that later transfers into adulthood. That's a totally different conversation by itself.
Part
right?
2. Part 2 is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry.
Yes. And so Maybe you did your relationship circle and you're not able to identify individuals in whom you can interact with and find that source of support system. So what can we do as a nation, as a sovereign nation? What can we do? Let us merge together.
Amen.
Be that community for everybody. Help us to reframe the understanding of some of the behaviors that are being portrayed and the effects that are impacting on the children. And let us view these behaviors from a different light. It's a cry for help.
It is.
I'm not saying that we should bypass all the tantrums and all the violent behaviors, but get to the bottom of it. It's a cry for help. Remember, we have to work together to develop effective approaches to aid and to promote resiliency in our children. They weren't born with it. We have to model it. Be that source, and we'll be on a great movement. Thank you.
I am so excited for part two, beyond.
In 2 weeks.
2
In
weeks.
2 weeks, yes.
In 2 weeks, we're going to bring Miss Walters back, but I have to go to Facebook. I'm seeing Mr. Hewitt again. Good afternoon, Mr. Osborne Hewitt. He's saying exactly, balance is important on every point in the social development of the child. Engage the children in good social activities where children can mingle and laugh and even cry from something done, seen, or felt. Good afternoon, Debbie Weeks. How are you doing? She's saying sundown worship gives way to have a conversation. And it's true. It's true. If you realize that your child did something on Monday, you don't always have to resolve it on Monday.
Sure.
Let some time pass and come back. I am excited to see our 19 viewers on Facebook. A pleasant good afternoon to our Facebook viewers. How are you doing? You're at home with a cup of tea? I would like some too. All right. In closing, we're wrapping up. I want us to remember that God is the focal point of every challenge that we are facing.
Right.
Yes, we are looking at struggles holistically. We're looking at it from different standpoints, the different troubles that we have. But we know that God is not the author of confusion. Confusion comes from the devil, and he does not want to see the family prosper. He doesn't want homes to be functional. And so this afternoon, in closing, I would like to pray. Do a special prayer for our families, for the parents that want more and are struggling and need assistance, for those around that notice these dysfunctional homes and want to do something. Let us pray. Dear God in heaven, we want to thank you for who you are. We thank you for the fact that you have never, you will never change. This is who you are. You're the God that shows up. You show off. You are there in every situation. Over 365 times in the Bible, we know that we should not fear because you are with us. You have been with us since the beginning of time. You created us for such a time as this, and we do not live in fear. We do not walk in fear. We are not overcome by fear. You have given us power, love, and a strong mind. And this afternoon, we want to bring before you every family unit represented here in Radioland and on Facebook, dear God. We have needs. We have worries, we have struggles, dear God, and sometimes it can be so overwhelming. We are busy, we are pulled on every end. We are filling so many roles. And dear God, you give us such precious gifts. Children, I want to bring before you Zaylen Brown, dear God, and his family specifically this afternoon. We thank you for allowing him to get to this afternoon. This was an opportunity to touch his family. And so we pray, dear God, that you will step in and you'll bring peace because you are the peace bringer. You are the peacemaker. You are the peace creator. Dear Lord, we want you to come in and amplify the love in each home. Let your angels step in and get into every single crevice of the home, dear God. We banish the enemy and every plan he has for the family this afternoon. We thank you for this wonderful conversation we were able to have with our willing participant, Miss Nigenda Walters, dear God. Continue to bless her in a marvelous way. We thank you for who you are, and we invite you again into our homes. We thank you for all you are and all you will continue to be for us and to us. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Next week we have a treat for you.
Yes.
Our youth director will be here, and he will be explaining some of the things that the church does for our young people. So, see you next week, 5:30 sharp, for Advent Quest.
Yes.
When you have trouble, don't cry. Oh no, no. Just remember that God is standing by. Hold on, yeah. When you have heartaches, don't cry. Oh no. Just remember that God is standing by. Sometimes when you're burdenless, don't just remember God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So there's no need to cry. Oh, God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So don't you worry and don't cry. No. When you have troubles, don't cry. Oh no. Just remember that God is standing by. When your cup runneth over, just remember God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So there's no need to cry. God is standing by. Thank you, Lord. So just ride out to worry and don't cry. You're feeling the storm, and it seems like forever. And your nights of confusion has been so long. Your ship has lost anchor, and the storm that you